We have seen a major development here for Bitcoin, where Bitcoin was able to bounce off its zone of support and then actually just fly straight through that zone of resistance, which is one of the key ideas that we were discussing in the last video. And now I want to talk to you about the possibility of Bitcoin getting all the way up to that critical $67,000 price target and even significantly higher, because this could definitely be something that paves the way for Bitcoin to set brand new all-time highs, and I want to discuss that with you in this YouTube video. Of course, I'm going to balance it out. I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about what the bears might be thinking as well, and then obviously depending on where you fall on that spectrum of bullish to bearish, hopefully you'll be a little bit more informed to make your own decisions in this market after this video. So if you do enjoy this content, as usual, do me a favor and smash those likes up, and of course check the description out for huge bonuses when you deposit and start trading using my links below. You're going to get huge amounts of free capital that these exchanges will give you, and any profits you generate with that capital are yours to keep, yours to withdraw. So definitely check that out. But let's get straight into this. And the first thing to note is that we did blast through a very, very important zone of resistance here. In the very last video, I was telling you guys that I am biased to the downside, so I was expecting that we actually break down. However, I also spent a long time talking about how if we do end up revisiting this range, especially because we've tested it a few times, I would expect that the range will break quite easily next time. And that's exactly what happened here. There was no problem for Bitcoin after it got this support bounce. It just breezed right through this resistance level. It has now seen a small pullback after reaching up to about 64.7, which was our prior high over here. Take a look at that crosshair, beautifully topping out in the exact same place, but it is still looking pretty decent here. And of course, the good news is that if it does end up dropping down now, it might actually be able to experience some support and then continue to rally up from here. One of the key things I was saying, especially because we've actually been stuck below this range now for up until today, 11 days, which is not that long, but it's definitely not short considering how local this area of resistance is, considering how like recent, how small, how insignificant this resistance is. It's significant, but it's not like, you know, $30,000 was, right? That was a very significant level. So considering what this level is, 11 and a half days of being stuck under this level is a decent amount of time. And I think because of that, when you finally start to get that breakout, especially when that breakout is coming after a fake out to the downside, when you're getting multiple rejections and so on, to me, that gives you a very strong case that actually that move is potentially going to be quite aggressive here. We've also seen the S&P 500 open, and the S&P 500 has gapped up to a brand new all-time high. So it turns out that this correction did not go as low as I was expecting as well. So a couple of misses here for my analysis predictions here. That's completely okay. I am totally okay to accept that. That's part of the game. And of course, I didn't lose money on any of this. I'm still long on Bitcoin, so I'm only making money off these moves. So ultimately, it doesn't hurt my bank balance or my Bitcoin balance. But of course, yeah, it is worth noting that this correction did not manifest as low as I would have wanted it to go. Is that a bad thing? Yes and no. It's bad in that, like, the less corrections you have, the more likely you are to have a major crash later on. But it's not that big of a deal because this is the S&P 500, and the S&P 500 is just kind of okay. Eventually, it's going to get pretty bad, obviously, but I wouldn't attribute that to this in particular necessarily, So this is something I'll keep an eye out for. The bottom line that I outlined for you guys yesterday still remains, which is that if this S&P 500 index does start to tumble lower, and if it starts getting ugly, I think Bitcoin's fucked. I still think that's the case. I think Bitcoin has showed a remarkable level of weakness. Let's not celebrate prematurely here and actually understand that while the S&P 500 has today set a brand new all-time high, Bitcoin remains 15% away from its all-time high. So there is the correlation there, and it is working in Bitcoin's favor today. However, generally speaking, broadly speaking, it's pretty bad for Bitcoin compared to the performance we've seen in traditional finance. And again, the point I've been making is that while the sun is shining, you really want to see the market actually doing well, because if it doesn't do well while the sun is shining, then guess what happens when it's cloudy, right? So that's always been my take there. But yeah, we've cleared this area of resistance. And if we take a look at this from a couple of different perspectives, we've done pretty well well here. Here's the descending resistance line that I was talking to you guys about a little bit on this YouTube channel over the last week or so. You can redraw this line in a couple different ways, and it's broadly still making the same point. I don't really care. I don't actually pay attention to them too much, but for me, I do think that this is probably going to be roughly like the most appropriate way to draw it, maybe a little bit higher than this, but in either of these two cases, you are looking at a pretty good setup here for Bitcoin, where we've managed to get above this line with a pretty decent amount of confidence here. There's a nice volume spike, which is not so easy to see, but you can make it out. And it has moved up by 1.3%. So that's not huge. It's not that much, but I think the fact that this breakout has come after a long time being under the line, to me, it's still somewhat valid. I don't want to fade this necessarily. We've also seen the dollar dropping today, so this is a valid move, from these kind of perspectives. And I think that the other thing that this shows us is that, if we are going to be rising up from here, then we were basically trading in a descending triangle. So one of the ways that we can kind of evaluate how high the price is going to go is actually by measuring it just like this. And then, you just kind of look at the height of the descending triangle and then extrapolate a target from that. And that does put us at a slightly higher all-time high of $77,000. So that's the kind of speculative target of this type of pattern. Am I, rallying behind this and confident in it? No, not really. It's not the most, confidence-building thing for me here. I don't really care too much for these kind of targets, but you might, so I'm putting it on your radar. Bitcoin's dominance as well, continuing to move up, which is really good. We want to continue to see Bitcoin's dominance move up because, it's almost like you set up like the 10 pins and then you just have, or the dominoes, and then you have a lot that can fall, right? The higher you are, the more you can fall. And in this case, if Bitcoin's dominance falls, you're looking at, easily life-changing money in the altcoin 10,000 in the altcoin market, like 10,000 times over. So really, really good stuff here. I want to continue to see that. And I would be expecting it to make its way up to at least the 60% Bitcoin dominance range. It's basically right back at the highs that it set before, and this was about a month ago. So we haven't quite seen Bitcoin dominance levels this high for some time now. And I think altcoin markets are reasonably seeing a hit because of that, even against the dollar, and even though they're up today. So definitely interesting stuff there. I will take a look at the altcoins in just a minute as well, because I'm very interested in trading them, especially with the free capital available with the links in the description. It just allows for some really nice risk-free trades as well. So I'll get to that in just a minute here, but again, taking another look at the Bitcoin chart, I want to show you this from a different perspective now. Let's take a more clean chart here where I don't have any drawings. And I just want to throw a couple indicators on here and see if there's anything interesting. Unfortunately, on the hourly time frame, there's still nothing you can really say about this. We've just been trading sideways, right? So there's nothing really important here. On the 4-hour time frame, it's the same thing. We haven't been able to develop anything from the Ichimoku cloud. But on the daily time frame, we are starting to push out of this daily Ichimoku cloud. So this is going to be something to watch. If we can clear it this time, then I actually think that's a really strong sign for the market. And I'd be very keen to see where that takes Bitcoin. I do want to outline the possibility, especially with this chart, that Bitcoin could be faking out above this line. I said to you before that I don't think that's going to happen because we already did it once, so I wouldn't expect it to happen again. And I still believe that's true, but I'm also open to the possibility that I'm wrong about that. So I do think that's worth exploring in a couple of minutes as well. But we'll get to that. If we take a look at this chart right here, on this clean chart, the daily Ichimoku cloud is looking pretty clean. Let's go back to the hourly and look at momentum. And from a momentum perspective, we've been able to start using a little bit of momentum here for the hourly, but it's still nothing that I would be paying attention to. And it's the same thing on the 4-hour time frame, but on the daily time frame, we have now gotten above our daily EMA ribbon for the first time in a few days. In about like 9 days now, 10 days, we've been able to get above the daily EMA ribbon. So if we're able to hold this, and that is a big if, because we've still got 10 hours left in the day according to UTC time zones. So, depending on when you watch this, you're going to be a little bit closer to resolution on this question, but it's a big if. If we do manage to get above this level, then I don't think the daily EMA ribbon is going to be a problem. So we got to wait 10 hours to see if that close comes in above the EMA ribbon. And I want to see it decently above the EMA ribbon, right? Like if we close just slightly above the ribbon, like over here at 63.6, I don't really care. But if it's a close like, above 64, above 64.5, above this wick, that's going to be a really strong sign that actually the daily EMA ribbon doesn't hurt Bitcoin anymore. And what that really means is that these two indicators, the Ichimoku and EMA, are phenomenal representations of what other indicators show. And because the thing is that most indicators will show you, broadly speaking, the same thing because they're going off the same data. And what this shows me is that these indicators just aren't really providing much resistance to Bitcoin right now. Like there's not actually a whole lot of resistance that Bitcoin's facing from indicators in particular. That doesn't mean that Bitcoin's mega bullish. It just means that from indicators in particular, there's not much resistance that I'm seeing, at least. However, I do think that with normal tools, there are still some significant challenges up ahead for Bitcoin. So let's take a quick look at this fixed range volume profile again, especially since we've seen some developments here. We've managed to rise above not only the value area low, but also more importantly, the point of control. This is the same level I was showing you guys on this chart right here, this red line. Obviously, the point of control did move down just a little bit. But we have also managed to get above this spike right here. And this was the most important thing. In fact, I'm going to show this to you on this chart because it's just going to be a little bit more clear what I'm talking about. So let's draw that same fixed range volume profile. And we're just kind of paying attention to this spike right here. We have managed to get above this spike. We've managed to get above this spike nearly as well, especially with our wicks. So it's a very good position from that perspective. I mean, I've been making it very clear that this is Bitcoin's most important zone of resistance on this chart, and we are now above it. So I'm super happy with that in terms of the bullish perspective. I think that actually makes bulls, stand in a much better position now compared to where we were before. It was very shaky, and there was also an equilibrium. And what I said literally outright very clearly in the last video. And again, shout out to those of you that are subscribed, that are smashing up the like button, because this is the most grounded, realistic analysis that you're going to get on YouTube. Part of that was me saying that, a lot of people, generally most people, are just going to be better off fucking off, just not even paying attention and setting a couple of alerts and then coming back to the market when those alerts go off, and the reason I'm saying that is because you don't want to be in a position where you're constantly analyzing the market while nothing is happening and grinding yourself down, and then the market finally moves and you're not sharp anymore because you've been frustrating yourself in the market over the last couple of weeks, right? The position of strength would simply be that you've got alerts set in the market and you're minding your own business, you're with family, you're in the gym, you're walking your dog, I don't care what you're doing, you're learning how to bake a damn cake, whatever it is, but your alert goes off and then you come back and start paying attention. And that actually kind of guarantees that you've always got a good fresh perspective on the market, but also that you're mentally fresh to trade as well. And I think that's really important. And that's where it would have happened here. A lot of people have just kind of lost their mind in this range because it was very choppy, right? Again, I want to show this to you like kind of up close to really make this point very, very clear. This was a very choppy range for Bitcoin price action. We had, and by the way, within a short space of time, we're only on May 15th now, so we're only halfway through the month. And within this time frame, we've had a massive move to the downside, followed by a massive liquidity grab up here, followed by another liquidity grab down here, and then up here, and then down here again, and then up here, and then down here again, and now another one here, right? And that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 out of 15 days, ladies and gents. We've had 8 liquidity grabs in this month. So, pretty much most traders that have traded, I mean, obviously this is always the case, but, pretty much anyone that's traded during this first 15 days, has probably found themselves in a bit of trouble, because of all of these wicks, right? Especially if they're doing tighter day trades. And it's just been a very choppy environment. And that's why I've said, in these kind of situations, it is generally just smarter to set your alerts and not even worry about what's going on. Or of course, alternatively, you've got phenomenal offers, BingX not even requiring KYC, where you don't even have to trade with your own money. When you do start trading, when you do deposit your capital and start trading, they'll give you more money for free, and then you're risk-free. You can just trade with their money and do whatever the hell you like with it. Any profits will be yours to keep, but if you lose the money, it wasn't yours to begin with, and it doesn't matter. It's the money of a big company that you don't care about. So go for it. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's well worth it. The Bybit card is also super cool for those. I think it's just for people in Europe or like the EU or something, but I've been using the Bybit card, and my God, it is cool. It is really cool to be able to spend the money that I have on Bybit in the real world. I've used it to book hotels. I've used it to pay for juices. I've used it to, restaurant, whatever, like it works anywhere. It's a Visa card. It works anywhere in the world. Is it Visa or MasterCard? I can't remember, but it's one of them, so it's accepted everywhere. And yes, super, super cool offers. So if you have access to it, my God, take advantage of it, because that is just mega cool. Very, very, very cool. Available in Australia as well. Super cool stuff. So definitely check that out if you're interested. But as we come back to the market here and talk about where this could go, I want to discuss the upside with you guys a little bit now. I've been very vocal that I think if Bitcoin can break above this level, it's going to be a pretty quick ride up to 67. So that's what I'm expecting to see now. I probably want to see that resolve by the end of the week. So by Sunday, that gives us another good 4 days in this market to produce that move to the upside. There is still some resistance between where we are and getting there. But, if we take a look at it on this chart here, or actually better on this chart here, that resistance only starts building up at 66 according to the VPVR, and I'm willing to go with this. I actually think that this is pretty fair and pretty accurate. So I guess what I could do is I could just kind of draw a box that looks a little bit like this and say, like, this is the next zone of resistance, but the next key level in that resistance is definitely $67,000. Everything between basically where we just were, basically like this yellow box, everything between this yellow box and this red box, is just empty air. It's just, a very thin atmosphere. So I think Bitcoin should have a pretty easy time getting above. This next kind of, what is this? It's only like another 3% move. But once we start getting here, I'm open to seeing Bitcoin struggle a little bit, and what would be great is that we kind of make it up into this range and then kind of come back down and then, do our thing, and then bam, we get that breakout, perhaps toward the end of this month over the next 15 days. That would be super healthy for the market. I think it's also now kind of shown us that this is a really nice kind of mid-range long setup, right? If Bitcoin does end up kind of falling back down, especially into the bottom half of this box that I just drew, that's a pretty good mid-range long setup, for Bitcoin, and, alts are going to have their own respective levels as well, especially because Bitcoin has managed to get up here with some conviction, and it also lines up with traditional finance as well. That definitely gives me a good degree of confidence here for the market. So that's something I'll be looking out for. I've just remembered, by the way, today is Wednesday, so this could have something to do with inflation news. I don't know, and I don't care, quite frankly. It's actually not very relevant to this market. These kind of things about like tracking CPI data and stuff like that, this is like very middle class, middle age, like sensationalist stuff, like that's basically what it is. I know that you heard me say that and you were like, oh my God, what has he said? But at the same time, you've agreed that, yeah, actually Sammy's got a point, because that's what it is. This is very much like just sensationalist information for the smart man, but the smart man can still be misled with stupid things, and it happens all the time. That's why, news networks like CNBC exist and so on. So I think it's worth, understanding what these things are and boxing them where they should be boxed. Ultimately, none of these things matter compared to the actual technical setups on the chart, because these are the things that can't lie, and these are the things that everybody has access to fairly. When there is a news event and then something is coming out on Wednesday at a specific time, like you're just, it's like you're a bunch of sheep just lining up to get slaughtered. What you really need is right in front of you here. At least in my opinion, I've been doing this for 7 years. And I've seen time and time again that it's not the successful people. It is not the successful people, the people who are actually good traders. It is not those people that pay attention to stuff like this. They just look at the charts because they understand what is worth paying attention to and what is not worth paying attention to. So I think a nice rise up here towards 67. And then, of course, if we manage to break that easily way higher than, $70,000. I don't think that there's going to be much standing between Bitcoin and getting above that $70,000 price area, and I don't think there's going to be much standing between Bitcoin and getting above the all-time high. It's the same kind of thing that we had over here that I was talking about in the last video. We found resistance here for so long, we've tested it so many times. I quite confidently think that if we manage to get back up into this range, it's going to be pretty easy for Bitcoin to break this range, right? We might get a small rejection, but I don't think it's going to last long. It might be sharp, but I still don't think it's going to last long. And I think that we're just going to fly straight through that all-time high. So it really just kind of hinges on this particular resistance level now. And it's nice to know that we've got some floor, some support over here that could serve as a floor as well. I think if Bitcoin does continue to move up, the very good thing that's going to happen next is that we're going to start to develop support down here. I've already told you that we have horizontal support down here, and that's why it could be an interesting trade setup. But, we're probably going to see that continue to get validated with some other peripheral indicators as well. So that's going to be pretty exciting for me as well to be taking a look at. Now, I want to take a quick look through the altcoin market. We haven't seen a whole lot taking place with Matic here. It's actually just fallen a little bit lower and then recovered back to where it was only a whole 2 days ago. Solana continues to melt faces and is trading at 152, but it's not doing anything particularly special right now, and it's actually consolidating in a pretty large way inside of a downtrend. So not looking great from that particular perspective here. Let's take a look at ARB as well. It has seen a nice big spike, but it is dying. SEI is up by 10% today, but of course it was up. It was down by, for example, 20% just in 4 days before. So we're only recovering some of the abysmal losses. So this is not good performance. But it has bounced off a good level here, a good long-term level, and it's got a decent amount of resistance up ahead. Actually, chart setups like this look pretty nice for short positions to me, because this is clearly an important reversal zone for SEI, and it hasn't reached that zone to grab some resistance yet. And let's just see how far away it is. It is still another 10% away. So, it could get there in the next couple of days. So that could be a very interesting short setup. I don't know where exactly I would go short on this. Maybe a little bit higher. Just because I like to be a bit more conservative with my entries. I'd have to take a look at this from a couple different perspectives, but definitely interesting there. Let's take a look at Doge as our resident meme coin, and nothing really going on over here. We've bounced off that support successfully, resistance up ahead. I don't want to say much more about Doge on that note. And Pepe is doing incredibly well. Obviously, there's been this massive meme coin narrative throughout this bull market so far, so that's definitely been interesting to watch and pay attention to. Lots of bearish wicks here. This is a very, very nasty chart on the daily. This looks exactly like how Bitcoin topped in 2021. So that's not really giving me confidence here. Let me show you that real quick. With Bitcoin back in 2021, take a look at this chart right here, right up until that yellow line, and take a look at this chart right here. So we're basically looking at the same situation here. I don't care that it's Bitcoin versus a meme coin. The point is that these markets are brilliant displays of psychology. That's literally all they are. That's why meme coins are great, by the way. A lot of people hate on meme coins, and obviously they're stupid, but the nice thing about meme coins is that they're such pure markets in terms of just psychology. Like, it's just a bunch of fucking idiots trying to rug each other, trying to make money off each other. And so the psychological dynamics here are beautiful. It's not like a stock like Tesla or something where it's a lot more logical. Tesla's a bad example, but it's not like a stock or an index. It's just pure, ridiculous, I want to sell to the next idiot type psychology, and it prints really predictable charts because of that. So, very, very bad chart here for Pepe. This is where I'd be interested in kind of getting out of positions personally, or at least scaling out a little bit. I don't typically see charts like this work out well. You've got 3 nasty wicks here. You are still continuing to push up, but they're each progressively getting worse and worse. They're topping out in relatively the same place. To me, this does scream of at least a kind of pullback down to some lower levels. And of course, the thing about this kind of pullback is that you'd probably fall down to a really nice Fibonacci level if you do fall back somewhere. So let's go ahead and take a look at this, because this could be pretty interesting. I'm actually going to be making a couple Memecoin videos soon, guys. So if this is something that's interesting to you, definitely make sure you do subscribe. If it's not something you're interested in, then just skip the video. But, you know, like I said in a recent video, I'm just going to be pumping out a couple more videos that will appeal to a bigger market on YouTube. You know, it might not necessarily be what you guys want to see, but this main content that you're getting from me is not going to change. So don't worry about it. I'm just putting out more stuff. Some of it, you know, is going to be very beginner stuff. But again, you know, you're not going to lose what you came here for. So I'm just stressing that point. Obviously, what's great about setups like this is, I mean, you know, and look at this. We've got a really nice kind of 382 here lining up with an existing zone of support resistance that I outlined before. And this is a nice big drop, right? I mean, that's a 20% drop for Pepe to fall down there. We've also got the golden pocket here lining up with another zone that I had already painted on the chart a very long time ago. And this could definitely be a potential bounce zone for Pepe as well. So, you know, from its current price down to this golden pocket is a 40% drop. But it's worth noting that Pepe does produce drops like this, and it happens within 5 days. So, you know, this is very much within the realm of possibility for Pepe here. That's just one Fibonacci. Let's go ahead and take a look at it from here. And we've got a bit of confluence here at the 382. Yeah, it looks a little bit weird, mushy. It looks a bit mushy at the 618, but maybe still valid. And then probably the most local fib I can draw, almost completely illogical, but it does line up with this 950,000 area. So that's interesting. Of course, both Pepe and all the other coins that I've been talking about are available with Bybit and BingX links below. Bybit remains the best exchange in the game. They've been the best for years, and I don't think that's changing anytime soon. Check it out. When you do start trading and make your deposit, you're going to get up to $30,000 for free that you can trade with. BingX is also a phenomenal alternative, and they do not require KYC. So that means no pictures of yourself or your passport, and you're going to get up to $135,000 in bonuses when you start trading using my link down below. So super cool stuff. I am running a private program where you can work with me one-to-one. If you want to reach out for details about that, it is not cheap, but it is very intense, and we've had phenomenal successes with it. Then please reach out to me using this link on screen here. With that, ladies and gents, I will be heading off. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. You know what to do if you have. Smash up the likes, subscribe, tick the bell, do all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.